Any station. This is Wolf 1. We are pinned down. A fortified Soviet position in a stone house at grid 214. We have heavy casualties. We cannot advance any further. Repeat. Any station. This is Wolf 1. We are pinned down. We have heavy casualties. We cannot advance any further. Wolf 1, this is Archer 2. We read you. Hold your position. We are on the way. We'll be in range in 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a lifetime. They are. Wait, I see you. Wolf 1, confirm target. Stone house, grid 214. Confirm. Send them to help. Wolf 1, target acquired. Firing. Reloading again. Firing again. The house is gone. The entire position is gone. Wolf 1, your path is clear. Archer 2 out.
To understand the Zrínyi, first we have to understand Hungary's situation. After World War I, the Treaty of Trianon absolutely devastated the country. It lost over 2/3 of its territory and with it a huge portion of its population, industry and vital mineral resources. For years, its military was legally dismantled. So when Hungary started to rearm in the late 1930s, it was starting from way behind. Its arms industry had to operate to the limits of what is possible, creating weapons that were often undergunned and under-armored. Hungary's early tanks like the Toldi light tank and the Csaba armored car were fine for the 1930s, but by 1941 they often found themselves outclassed on the Eastern Front. The breaking point came on the banks of the Don River in 1943, where the Hungarian Second Army was destroyed by the Soviets. Its outdated tanks were completely ineffective against the Soviets. The Hungarians knew they needed something better, and they needed fast. Their inspiration came from the German allies. Hungarian military observers on the Eastern Front saw the success of the German StuG III assault gun, a low-profile, turretless vehicle that was relatively cheap to build and deadly effective. They wanted to get some for the army, but Germany, fighting its own massive war, could only supply a fraction of what Hungary needed and refused to provide the blueprints. If Hungary wanted a StuG, it would have to build its own. In 1942, Captain József Barankai, a key advocate of the concept, submitted a report formally justifying the creation of a new assault artillery branch. The task of designing the vehicle fell to the Manfred Weiss Works, Hungary's biggest industrial complex. The plan was simple. Take the chassis of the existing Turán medium tank and build a Hungarian StuG on top of it. But even this homegrown solution wasn't straightforward. The project was led by the artillery department, but the Turán tank chassis and the precious steel needed to build it was controlled by the tank forces. The head of the tank forces, Lieutenant General Jenő Major, had no idea the project was even happening. And when he found out, the bureaucrats started fighting over territory. They initially refused to allocate the high-quality Ajax armor steel and even blocked the use of tank schools for training crews for the new assault artillery units. The Zrínyi project had to overcome enemies at home before it ever saw a battlefield. Despite the internal politics, the project pushed forward. The result was a vehicle named after Miklós Zrínyi, a legendary 16th century hero who fought the Ottoman Turks, a name that evoked a spirit of desperate last-ditch defense. There were two planned versions. The Zrínyi I was meant to be the dedicated tank destroyer, armed with a long, high-velocity 75mm gun. But as this gun was still in development, the priority was on the Zrínyi II, an infantry support vehicle armed with a massive 105mm howitzer, which was easier to produce. And this is where the Zrínyi II gets interesting. On paper, that short-barreled howitzer wasn't a great anti-tank weapon. Its shells had a low velocity, making it hard to punch through thick armor with conventional rounds. But it had a secret weapon, the 42M heat round. This shell didn't rely on speed. It used a chemical charge to burn its way through metal, so it could penetrate 120mm of armor almost regardless of the distance. Suddenly, this infantry support gun was a deadly tank hunter. Its survivability was also surprisingly good. The front was protected by 75mm of armor, and crews often bolted spare trucks for extra protection. But its greatest defensive asset was its size. At just 1.9 meters tall, the Zrínyi II was an incredibly low-profile vehicle. It was even shorter than the German StuG it was based on, making it perfect for hiding in ambush positions. As you can see here, the Zrínyi was lighter, faster and significantly shorter than its main Soviet counterpart, the Su-122. It wasn't designed to be a tank destroyer, but out of sheer necessity, that's what it became. The first Zrínyi IIs rolled off the production line in late 1943. 300 was ordered altogether, and the first ones were sent to the 1st Assault Gun Battalion. In the spring 1943, they saw their first major action in Galicia, which is in modern-day Ukraine. And they made one hell of a first impression. During a fierce Soviet counterattack, the Zrínyi charged in to save the Hungarian 16th Infantry Division. They knocked out at least 17 T-34s and helped retake the lost ground. But the Zrínyi's most legendary moment came during the Battle of Toldi in the autumn of 1944. This was a brutal, month-long fight where Hungarian and German forces tried to hold back a massive Soviet and Romanian offensive in Transylvania. Here, the Zrínyis of the 10th and the 25th Assault Gun Battalions were thrown into the thick of the fighting. In one incredible engagement, a small unit of 6 Zrínyi IIs under the command of Ensign János Bozoki laid an ambush for a column of Soviet tanks. Hiding their low-profile vehicles, they waited for the perfect moment. In just few minutes, they opened fire and destroyed 18 T-34s, completely shattering the Soviet attack. It was a stunning victory, a perfect example how clever tactics and a well-designed machine could overcome superior numbers. These crews were led by men like Captain József Barankai, the same officer who had championed the assault gun concept. He was an aggressive, fanatical commander. Before heading to the front, he sold his apartment, telling friends, "I don't need it anymore." He even maintained an empty grave for himself next to the first 2 soldiers from his battalion who were killed. Barankai led his men from the front until he was killed in a Soviet air raid in July 1944. The Zrínyi earned a fearsome reputation. Its crews loved it, and its enemies respected it. It was an excellent ambush predator. And some reports claim that for every Zrínyi the Soviets managed to destroy, they lost 3 to 4 of their own armored vehicles. However, I could not find any solid evidence or other sources to confirm this statement, so take it with a grain of salt. So if the Zrínyi was so good, why isn't it more famous? Because its story is a tragedy of too little, too late. On July 27, 1944, a massive Allied bombing raid struck the Manfred Weiss works in Budapest. The production hall where the Zrínyis were being built collapsed and production ground to halt permanently. This single raid was a catastrophe for Hungary. Not only did it stop the flow of Zrínyi IIs, but also destroyed the only prototype of the Zrínyi I tank destroyer. Even worse, the bombs incinerated the prototypes for Hungary's next generation heavy tank, the 44M TAS, a vehicle designed to be a true equivalent to the German Panther. In one afternoon, Hungary's armored future was wiped from existence. The country's centralized defense industry its greatest strength had become its single point of failure. In the end, only about 72 Zrínyi IIs were ever completed. It was a drop in the ocean against the tide of the Red Army. They were sent to the front in small groups, never in the numbers needed to make a strategic difference. The last of them fought and died in the brutal siege of Budapest, with some even being assembled inside the city at the guns factory before it was overrun by Soviet troops. Today, only one Zrínyi II survives. It was captured by the Red Army and now sits in the Patriot Park Museum near Moscow, bearing the registration number 3H-022. It's the last remnant of a remarkable machine. The Zrínyi II was a capable, effective weapon born from a nation with its back against the wall. It proved that even an underdog could build a brawler. But in the brutal calculus of World War II, being good wasn't enough. In the end, the Zrínyi was a hero in a story that could only have one ending. A story cut short.